I have an observation to announce. It's on the concept of the occurrence of the Holocaust hoax, in specific, the ideology of those who adhere to this myth. It's often claimed repeatedly, that if you don't believe in the Holocaust hoax and actually denounce it as a lie, that you consciously disbelieve in it, then you must be a National Socialist. Or to rephrase it, not believing in the hoax makes you adherent to National Socialism. However, upon closer examination, this would mean that such people producing such accusations themselves don't believe in the Holocaust hoax, and are in fact announcing themselves that they're National Socialists. See, if it's part of National Socialist ideology to deny the Holocaust hoax, that would mean that the National Socialists of Germany during the 1930s and 40s never intended a plan of mass extermination, or anything even close. Since this relates to ideology, it would mean that the National Socialists were politically opposed to the idea of killing off a race of people, or executing or starving people within the parts of the Soviet Union Germany occupied. If one's a National Socialist because they don't believe in the hoax, that means that Adolf Hitler and the entire German government didn't believe in the hoax. Clearly, however, if someone commits a literal genocide, they'll believe they did it. I mean, after all, if this hypothetically were the case, it would indeed be the case, making them murderers. It would be part of their ideology to point this out, that the idea of a Holocaust would be a positive phenomenon if made flesh. The fact this didn't in actuality happen, however, is evidence that the National Socialists were entirely against the idea of killing people on the basis of ethnicity, religion, or allegiance to a different empire. The fact that no documents exist which show that National Socialists intended their supposed genocide testifies to this too. The fact that when Jewish people were killed for their private business activities, the National Socialists protested this and made sure to legally and economically protect the Jews testifies as well. Or, the fact that no contemporary white nationalists, or virtually none anyway, support racial genocide. Since if the Holocaust occurred, it would unexceptionally be the case that the National Socialists believed in this occurrence, with essential elements of their belief system being pro-extermination additionally. To claim someone's a National Socialist themselves for refusing to abide by the Holocaust hoax would mean that such genocide couldn't have ever occurred. They're a National Socialist then, because the National Socialists were against committing racial genocide, and thus the one making the accusation someone is a National Socialist are themselves a National Socialist, not believing in the Holocaust hoax either. Unless, that is, someone can somehow simultaneously believe that the National Socialists committed the Holocaust, but they didn't believe in it. I mean, what the fuck? So, I've murdered someone, sliced their head off with an axe, but for some reason I don't believe that I've done it, and it was additionally never part of my ideological beliefs that this person should have died. Yeah, you can hopefully see why Holocaust hoax believers are idiots. The only other possibilities existent to attempt to make sense out of this nonsense is that, to provide one, someone doesn't actually have to adhere to National Socialist politics in order to be a National Socialist, since the German National Socialists would have to have believed in the Holocaust in order to have committed it, thus being part of their ideological sphere. That means that being a National Socialist, by accusation, doesn't even mean agreeing with National Socialism, or what the National Socialists believed at the time. This is self-refuting. It means that National Socialism isn't National Socialism. It means that one's called a National Socialism when they are. It doesn't actually mean they're a National Socialist, or for that matter have anything whatsoever in common with National Socialism. Again, the only way denying the Holocaust hoax makes one a National Socialist without contradicting in any way is to accept that one making this accusation either A, is a National Socialist also, as they don't believe in the Holocaust, or B, they're not a National Socialist because they believe in the Holocaust. No, I'm not kidding. So either way, the one making this accusation is either a National Socialist or pro-racial genocide. Since the National Socialists were ideologically opposed to the idea of the Holocaust, this means in order to not be a National Socialist, one would have to justify the Holocaust. Provided that one believes that denying the Holocaust hoax makes them a National Socialist, this would mean that they believe justifying the Holocaust doesn't make one a National Socialist, which they're at least correct about, meaning that they can't accuse people who justify the Holocaust of being crypto-National Socialists. If someone both denies the Holocaust hoax, but also believes that if it happened, hypothetically, it'd be a positive thing for the world. However the Holocaust hoax is defined, they wouldn't be a National Socialist as long as denying the Holocaust hoax makes one a National Socialist in someone's eyes. This is because one admits that the National Socialists were against the idea of the Holocaust hoax, meaning the Holocaust hoax never occurred, seeing it not occurring as part of National Socialist ideology. And additionally, this meaning that someone justifying the Holocaust hoax is thus not a National Socialist, in fact to some degree or another anti-National Socialism. Let's say someone realizes that contradiction in their thought. They probably don't. No leftists have, sadly. And surprisingly, in accordance with the laws of common sense, for once, decide to modify their position a little. Now, they instead claim that justifying the Holocaust hoax makes one a National Socialist. This implies that they believe the Holocaust hoax happened, and of course that it was part of National Socialist ideology to commit such racial extermination. They claim as well that denying the Holocaust hoax makes you, to some extent, anti-National Socialism, and are probably not a National Socialist for not believing and agreeing with the event. While this position is clearly less nonsensical, it's still problematic and inaccurate. Believing in one thing the National Socialists supposedly believed in doesn't make one a National Socialist, just someone who agrees with one of their many ideological positions. But also, since the Holocaust hoax never actually happened, you can't be a National Socialist or close to National Socialism for thinking this way, but you're also not a National Socialist for denying the hoax. So that's not a political belief, but an historical belief. And even though it's part of National Socialist politics to be anti-genocide, it's still just one belief. You're not a National Socialist merely for this. In order to be a National Socialist, you have to be a National Socialist. It means you agree with most or entirely everything related to National Socialism. You agree with the whole ideology and worldview. Let's say that in an alternate reality, the Holocaust hoax isn't a hoax, but the Holocaust really happened. It was also intended on the part of the National Socialists and therefore part of their ideology. So one can claim that if someone believes in the Holocaust hoax and also justifies it, they're therefore at least agreeing with one National Socialist position. Now, to address the reverse of this first, denying the Holocaust hoax is a healthy belief. You are literally claiming that something without evidence doesn't exist because there's no evidence for it. Could someone against genocide ever criticize you for being against the existence of the Holocaust politically so? Well, of course not. Never under any circumstances. If otherwise, they'd be in favor of genocide. In terms of the first accusation, addressing it now, yes, if it happens to be the case that the Holocaust hoax happened, the National Socialists justified it, National Socialism being pro-genocide, thinking the same as the National Socialists here does indeed mean, one, appears at least to agree with a singular National Socialist position. However, they could agree to this occurrence for alternative reasons, not actually seeing eye to eye with the National Socialists here. Also, in even believing this would mean one would have to accept that even most people who call themselves National Socialists aren't National Socialists, since they deny something crucially part of National Socialist philosophy. Outside of the Holocaust hoax not occurring in real life, mean that one's denying something non-existent, the Holocaust hoax itself is a right-wing myth, well, sort of, created by racist Zionists for the sake of spreading the racist ideology of Zionism. I mean, yes, it is true that the right very much, as opposed to the left, tend to revise Holocaust history, but Zionism is big money, and it's the one holding the chains here. The establishment of Israel, the mass killing of indigenous Palestinians, 9/11, the war on terror, the taxation of the proletariat to fund such wars. It's all the imperialist, colonialist, militarist, statist, nationalist, racist, Zionist, neoliberal, capitalist, Jewish supremacist, authoritarian, warmongering, neoconservative, bourgeois scam, which is what I mean by it appealing to the right-wing neocons. If anything, spreading the lie that is the Holocaust hoax should be illegal. Not saying it should be. It shouldn't be. I just mean, if anything. Does it really matter that these people have unintentionally classified themselves as National Socialists and their accusations that other people are National Socialists? Well, yes, but not for the sake of useless linguistics, but rather as a critique of useless linguistics. I've already talked about this in my video, Linguistical Irrelevancy. I call this whole Semitic crisis the hollow, costly paradox. It is hollow, time-consuming, intelligence-consuming even. It's worthless, not needing to exist, but I find it to be interesting, nonetheless. Just goes to show that those who believe in the hoax have no arguments in favor of this thing which apparently existed. Hence why they're so focused on calling people National Socialists, including themselves, as opposed to presenting any degree of evidence of the religion for the secular age.